So I had this funny experience. I was watching the new Nate Bargatze special on Netflix, and I had never seen him before. I had seen him before, but I didn't know I had seen him before. He has a new one. It's called Your Friend, Nate Bargatze. And if you've seen, I'm sure you've seen that clip of him on Saturday Night Live as George Washington talking about all the crazy measurements we have as Americans. It's a very, very funny routine. And that's Nate Bargatze. So now he's a stand-up, and I believe he's the most successful stand-up in America. I think he is now, he's now the most popular comedian in the country, I believe. Anyway, I watched this show, and the next day, I said to my wife, I watched this comedian, and I said to her, mark my words, I believe this is the beginning of a major cultural shift. And she said, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, whatever she says, but I said, mark my words. The next day, this guy on X, who had a very similar name to mine, Spencer Klavan, I'd never heard of him before, he puts out, and we hadn't spoken at all, of course, he puts out a post saying the exact same thing. I was looking for it before Member Block started. I was looking to find it, but it's exactly the same thing. This is the harbinger of a major cultural shift. And my wife said, oh, that's interesting. Why didn't you think of that? And so what it is, first of all, is the audience, if it's not CGI, and I don't think it is immense. I mean, most of these Netflix specials are big venues, and they try to fill them up, but they're not always filled up. And sometimes they close off the balconies and things like this. But this looked like an entire city was watching this guy, and he's got no set, just a round circle where he's playing in the round to all these people. And it's huge, and the audience is in stitches. And I thought he was really, really funny. Okay. Now, I didn't think he was the funniest comedian I'd ever seen, but I thought he was up there. I thought he was Jim Gaffigan level funny, and maybe even a little more interesting than what Gaffigan does. Why is that so interesting? It was totally normal, observational comedy from a normal point of view. It wasn't cutting edge. It wasn't experimental. It wasn't that woman Gadsby saying, I'm going to be not funny because life is too oppressive and everybody's supposed to sit around and go, isn't that beautiful? Comedy without laughs. What a wonderful idea. It's like art without beauty. It's where we've gotten to that place, and now we're going to have comedy without laughs. But Bargatze is just normal. Here's just a little clip of him talking about the fact that he went to community college. And he had this wonderful line about community college is where he said he went to community college, and community college is there, and what they say to you is, you're probably not leaving the community, so let us show you around, which is a very funny line. And then he talked with going to classes with his other friends. Here's the clip.
I took speech in college. I would ride there with my friends going to a business class or something, whatever you go to. I was like, all right, I'll catch you after speech. And I still say a lot of words wrong. That's what I don't understand. I say poem, which no one ever knows. Poem, P-O-E-M, I go poem. We'll fix that, speech class. What if I want to be a poem writer? What if I have a lot of great poem ideas and no one takes me serious because I'm like, listen to my poems?
And he talks about his wife. He had a line about his wife that really did make me laugh, which was where he said, without my wife, I wouldn't even know what I like to eat, which I think is absolutely true of me. People offer you things and you say to your wife, do I like that? And so, now, the reason this is a huge deal is one of the reasons, and I say this without pride, I say it, but I do say it historically. One of the reasons my cultural predictions, not my political predictions, but my cultural predictions have been so on point again and again and again is because I've studied, when writing the book, The Truth and Beauty, I studied the Romantic period, the Revolutionary Romantic period, and point out at the beginning of The Truth and Beauty that it is a weirdly similar time to our own. All of our assumptions are thrown aside, politics changes, sex changes, feminism starts, technology outstrips itself any place that it's ever been before. This, I'm talking about the 18th century and the early 19th century. Faith starts to recede. Atheism becomes a speakable position. And you'd think, oh my God, we will never get back from this. And anybody who's a slightly conservative, like William Wordsworth or Samuel Coleridge, anybody who says, the French Revolution was really a bad idea, is just absolutely eviscerated by the culture. I mean, talk about cancel culture. A famous poem was written about Wordsworth, attacking him for becoming the poet laureate, saying he had sold his soul for becoming the poet laureate because he was a conservative. Because when they offered him the poet laureateship, he said, I don't want it. I'm too old. I'll never write anything good again. There's no point. And the Queen, Victoria, insisted on him taking it. And he finally said, well, if the Queen insists, I got to do it. And then they just attacked him because he was a conservative. It was very much like it is today. And yet that revolutionary time gave way to a religious revival that started with the intellectuals called the Oxford movement. And you always hear me say that the new revival is coming from the intellectual top, and that's exactly what's happening. And what happened next was the Victorian period, which some people hate because of its injustices, and there were injustices, and because of its industrialization, and there was industrialization. That meant children were working in factories who hadn't been working before. There were many injustices and many bad things happening. However, I think it was one of the greatest periods in human history, along with Pericles' Greece and maybe Augustus's Rome. It was one of those periods in history where not only did a society come together and reform itself after a revolutionary period, but it spread the Anglosphere throughout the world through the British Empire, which I think is one of the most civilizing things that's ever happened to the world. And everybody, I hate empire. I don't. I think this was a great thing. And were there injustices? It was human beings. So it's all full of sin and horror and nightmare. But from that revolutionary period, from that period when what we would call today the left attacked sexual relations, marriage, kings, politics, all the patriotism, all these things, it all came back together. And in this Bargatze thing, it's putting a lot of weight on poor Nate Bargatze, but still, it was like sometimes when you're driving in California, a wisp of hot wind will blow across your nose and you'll think, oh boy, the desert winds are coming in, and soon the temperature rises and these hot California winds come in. And that's what this is like. I sniff it. And that kind of reconstruction is what I see coming very rapidly. I may not see it because it may, if it's 10, 15 years from now, I may have to, carry on to finer pastures. But you will. And in reshaping that system, in reshaping the world, women will become women again, men will become men again, and America will become bigger than it's ever been. And those are going to be new challenges that some of you guys are going to face that I'm not going to see, that I think are going to be, I guess what I want to remind you of is this: golden ages don't look like golden ages while they're happening. A lot of times. Maybe the Renaissance did, and people knew the Renaissance was exciting and different. But golden ages are full of just as much sin, just as much injustice, just as much friction between male and female, just as much political infighting as ages that are not golden. The difference is that social cohesion that comes back, the restraint on our basic instinct, and the attention on the outer world, and the confidence to spread our faith in liberty, our faith in Christ, our faith in the things that matter throughout the world is what makes a golden age. And I really do smell one coming. I predicted the revival that's just happening now, that's just beginning now. And I think we're entering an age that may well be a Trumpian golden age. I don't think Trump will live to see it either. But I think that, it will come, and many of you will see it. For more great content, like and subscribe. And for even more great content, subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.